Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Connections and Conversations. And I'm super thrilled today to have with me one of my besties, Soul Sister, Gwynne. Thank you for being here. And most of you who have been part of the Advocacy Arena community are very familiar with her. I wanted to do just a separate little chat with her today so that we could dig into some of the specific area of expertise and knowledge that she has because of her work, her experience with unions. So, Gwynne, if you could just say hello to everyone and tell them a little bit about your background.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here in Advocacy Arena. It has been a journey. I worked for the UAW for nearly 20 years in the Public Relations Department as part of the President's staff. My primary focus of my job and objective was media training, media research. I wrote speeches. I wrote stories for our magazine, Solidarity Magazine, and any other special projects. I also had a lot to do with writing up the summaries for contract negotiations. So I was very much involved with all departments within the UAW, organizing drives, local union communication, teaching up at Black Lake. So it encompassed a lot, but it was fulfilling in every way.
Wonderful. And I know that you come from a family of folks who are also very involved in the union. Can you tell me just a little bit? I know that you're passionate about it. I would like for our audience and those who have not heard me speak about it before, for you to kind of tell our audience why unions matter, why it's important to you.
Well, it was my mother worked for GM, my father worked for Ford. Both of them were hourly workers, both of them were UAW members. Many people in my family, on both sides of my family, and generationally, have been UAW members or currently are UAW members. So it has never not been significant to me to understand and applaud the works of the UAW and what it means to be part of the union. They saw us through some really hard times. There were a lot of gains just because of being a part of the UAW family. Scholarships, and I mean scholarships for actual school, not just for Black Lake, because there are different scholarships for that as well. But it's significant to understand that my mother had a voice, my father had a voice in their workplace, and they had a large contingent behind them that would stand up for their rights to say what was unfair on the job, for their rights to make sure that they were protected, not just on the job, but even when they were sick, and the rights that they were owed if it was needed. So it's been truly a blessing to be a part of a union family and be a part of the bigger overall union family. I think people take it for granted. I think people take a lot of what they have for granted and a lot of what was gained for granted. And I think that they don't understand the significance of the place we are at today when union rights are being absolutely hammered and people are really at risk. I mean, we saw it, and we see it currently with the federal employees. I mean, this is reminiscent of when Reagan broke the union, and the outcomes that came from that, which was a much more reduced level of respect for the union membership, as well as how we're seen. It's always been a battle of looking at the union as an outside entity that's coming in to kind of cause chaos, whereas the true and the real story is that the union comes in at the behest of the workers in order to protect the workers in their workplace and gain significant benefits, whether it's pay, whether it's health and safety, whether it's healthcare. It's
Right. And I think a lot of people, because so many of the gains of the labor movement over decades,
yeah.
a lot of people who were not around before those gains were realized, don't recognize the fight that went in to allowing them to enjoy some of the rights and benefits they have today as
Yeah.
workers. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned OSHA. I mean, there was a time in this country when people, it was just very much part of the culture for people to work in unsafe environments, for people
Absolutely.
not to be paid fairly, for people to not have the respect of time and in the workplace. Like
Yeah.
we can thank the unions for our 40-hour work week.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think people just think that's a given. But before that, workers were literally, in some ways, worked to death. You know?
Yes, literally to death. Yeah. There are regulations, but then there has to be those who will make sure that those regulations are enforced. The union is one of those arms that makes sure that safety regulations and other regulations are enforced within the work environment. And I think that people don't realize that by protecting the workplaces that are union represented, they are also protecting others, because it doesn't just stay within a union workplace environment. It does filter out to the rest of other workplaces, because it is also an incentive for other employers to make sure that they have some of the same kind of significant benefits for their workers, in order for retention, and I don't think that people really look at that and really appreciate the fact that the company is not going to be giving you health care just because they're generous. They're giving it to you because they want to retain you. They're not giving you time off because they are concerned about, health and whether or not you're going to be able to be efficient and productive. They're giving it to you because they want to retain you at that site, because you could leave and then they'd be lost of the talent and the knowledge of your knowledge base. We're looking at a time now where maybe that is not as significant to employers, but it's down the line, it's going to make a difference, because if you don't have people who understand the job, understand how to do it productively and efficiently, then you're going to end up spending more money, less profit, than if you have someone who has that workplace knowledge that can simply be applied and train others to carry on that wealth of knowledge as well. It feeds itself if you allow it to.
Yeah.
I don't understand I really don't. I really don't understand why they don't want workers to have a voice in the workplace, and why they don't want them to have the ability to make choices. Many times, union members are the first to, or workers are the first to understand what can be done better, what can be done more efficiently, safely, and what can garner your biggest return, whether it's cutting down production time, whether it's just eliminating steps, which of course cuts down the limit. They don't appreciate the fact that the workers are the ones that are actually doing it, based on a manager sitting in an office who's not doing it, who doesn't have the same type of knowledge base. You can look at something and say, oh, I think I would do it this way. But if you apply that technique, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you that it's going to be the best way, even if you're getting to the same final outcome. So there are many different instances where it's important to have respect on the job and have the ability to say, this is how we need to be doing this. And I don't believe that you get the same type of relationship in a workplace without the union being a significant part of this decision-making process to begin with.
Absolutely. And, we've talked in many of the conversations, spaces, and things that we've had, because I think unions are very important to our society to ensure the betterment of everyone.
Yeah.
and not just the folks in the workplace, but a lot of these things have a kind of a true trickle down effect,
Yeah.
to the family and to the community.
Yeah. When union workers are making significant gains, they're contributing to not just their household, but to the greater community that they live in. That greater community could extend as far as other family members in their communities. So, there was a study, there's always a study, and the UAW is big on doing their own studies as well, where a union job can effectively um, contribute to 10 other jobs within the community. This is substantial. You
It
may not
really,
think, because if you look at it as just one person, whereas there are hundreds usually within a community, or at least at a facility, that makes a big difference. The little mom and pop diners, the little mom and pop shops, even chain stores. If you take away um, a facility and just shut it down, you will see a definite downturn in the landscape of that same community within a year, because there's nothing supporting it. There's no finances. There's no workers being able to even try to make up the difference, because apples and oranges just they don't cost the same. They don't measure up the same, and they don't give back the same to the community. It's also significant to understand that the UAW is very much involved in the communities where they have facilities and where they work and where they live. So they're giving to nonprofits. They're raising money for Coats for Kids. They're raising money for March of Dimes. They're raising money for Red Cross. They're raising money for all of these other different Forgotten Harvests and these other different entities that hold up the community and make sure that people are being sufficiently taken care of in some manner. When you take that away, and you lose that, then you're damaging. You're damaging not just the union worker, you're damaging the communities that it supports.
absolutely. And I think that is probably one of the reasons why the labor movement and civil rights movement have always been intertwined
Yes,
in some way, because it is about rights for people. In the case of the labor movement, it's workers, but civil rights, it's everyone, and they intersect. They're very intertwined.
yeah,
Even the people in the early days of the labor movement during the civil rights movement, there was a lot of crossover and involvement
definitely.
from the unions and the civil rights leaders of that time. I want you to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to talk about kind of what we do to
Okay.
elevate information for people.
Okay. Well, Walter Reuther was very good friends with Martin Luther King Jr. It's a little known fact, and it's very rarely talked about. But having worked at Solidarity House, which is the UAW headquarters, I was able to see the space that was dedicated to Dr. Martin Luther King, where he had his own office. I understood by working with Walter Reuther Archives the role that the UAW played in the March on Washington, and why it was important and significant for them to first do the march in Detroit, Michigan. And it was a test. It was, can we get this large crowd of people together for a cause, first of all? Secondly, without violence, how do we manage it? How do we take care of it? Take care of the people that are there, and how do we actually translate this to something larger? So they did the march in Detroit before they did the march on Washington. Martin Luther King gave his speech downtown Detroit, partially, almost to the T, before he gave it to Washington at the memorial. So it's people don't understand that, and don't. Walter Reuther and the UAW wanted to make sure that civil rights was as much of the focus as workers' rights. They felt that it was tied together, and they wanted to make sure that their workers understood that equality, equity is not just important in the workplace, but it's important in society. Because, if you walk out of that workplace, you shouldn't have to deal with being seen as a lesser human being outside of those walls.
Absolutely.
So it was the the UAW was known to be a place that they could go to for bail money, for boots on the ground, and for support in any other significant way. So I really want to emphasize that it was a two-way friendship. It wasn't just, they weren't just a bank for the civil rights movement. They were a partner, a true partner, because they believed in it. And that is absolutely due to the vision of Walter Reuther and his friendship with Dr. Martin Luther King.
Absolutely. I mean, and we all know, the history and the horrific way in which Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Absolutely.
And it was when he was here in my state, in Memphis.
Absolutely, with the sanitation workers.
Yes, fighting for workers' rights. And folks don't realize that the March on Washington was about jobs.
Yes.
And freedom.
Yes. Yes. And not just jobs, it was about safety, because think about what happened in
all those things that go along with it, and all those things
everything.
that unions work to ensure that everyone has. And a lot of those, workers, like early union workers, some of them had them, but there was still a significant part of our society, Black workers, who
Yes.
were not able to enjoy those things. And so you have the civil rights movement saying, no, we want these rights for all of us. We
Yes.
deserve
It's been debated, like, which union said first that when you hire African Americans to the workplace, that in a union workplace, that they have to be paid the same amount. But I do know that the UAW was definitely a champion of that. There were other unions as well, of course, but I see a lot of historical fluctuation in who is the first. It doesn't matter who was the first to say it. I do know that it was something that became a universal code among union workshops and union leadership. So I think that's significant as well.
Absolutely. And I think that what you and I do together every week on Mondays over on Spoutable,
yes,
we host a good trouble chat, and we come together. You are my co-host. We come together, we talk about current events, news updates, and history. And we've been doing this together now for almost 4 years.
Isn't that crazy? It's just crazy. I love it.
How time flies.
Yes, yes. Not many people know what the story is of how I found you. I had been very sick. I had taken myself out of social media, and I had transitioned to being retired and just hadn't found my way. I didn't know where to go. Slowly, and it was due to George Floyd that I came back to social media and even Twitter, because I had been on Meta stuff. I'm just going to leave it at that. And it was so frustrating, but there was a large community from my UAW days that was there. But I just felt like I was preaching to the choir, that it was just like an echo chamber, and anything outside of that just felt very frustrating. Like you weren't doing anything. You weren't making any type of significant difference. And so I came back to Twitter, and I followed somebody into your space and was just like, oh my gosh, she's doing it correctly. And just kept coming back, kept staying, and appreciated that you gave me space. You gave me opportunity to share my voice. I was learning so much, and not just that, this was a community that was actually taking action somehow, some way. whether it was getting out and canvassing or doing text banking, phone banking. I was like, okay, this is where I'm in the right place, and I'm so glad that I'm here. And it got me back involved. It got me back being proactive, not just keyboard warrior, but actually being active. And it's even now, it feels like it's a responsibility, and it is, to maintain outside activism other than just being a keyboard warrior. I That harkens back to you and the relationship that I was able to develop with you. And I really appreciate you because you mentored me through a very difficult transition and still do today. You still do today. I'm not done. I'm not done learning.
But I don't think we ever are. I am a lifelong learner, and I love sharing what I learn, which is kind of in part what we do in the Good Trouble Chat, and we have it every Monday. It's on Spoutable, which is a really great app. It's
It
very
is.
safe. We have a very strong and still growing community there.
Yes.
And it's every Monday, rain, sleet, snow or shine, holiday
Yes,
or
ma'am.
we are there every Monday starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time and 12
Yes.
noon Central Time. And we have a lot of great voices, people. It's a very diverse community, and I mean diverse not just in ethnicity, but
No.
in the places that people come from, because they're literally all over the country, and some
Yeah.
international
Yeah.
participants as well, and very different diverse work experiences and professional experience that we are able to bring together and to share with one another, to keep one another informed, and I feel like it helps to motivate the entire community to get
Yeah.
engaged, because that's my focus, that's my mission, is to increase civic engagement, you
Yeah.
know.
It's
And
like, even if you don't feel like it, you have to. Because if you don't do it, who's going to do it? Like you said, there's nobody coming to save us. You said it first. And then it's like everybody picked it up, and now people are saying it everywhere. But I think people piggyback off of your energy. They gain something from what's being shared in advocacy arena, and they make it their personal responsibility, and they hold themselves accountable for what they are doing in order to counter what is happening to us. And that's very real. I don't know that other pods are doing it the way you are. There are some that have even been inspired because of you. Many that have been inspired because of you, that have that kind of follow along the same thread. But I'm telling you, I've bounced around a lot, and yours was the first that I saw do it, and do it so well. So I am proud to be a part of it. I am humbled to be a part of it. And understanding that it's been 4 years, that's crazy, because it doesn't feel like that, even though this has been the longest 9 months that we've ever been through together. But I guess when you're doing what you love and you're doing something significant, time becomes a second thought. You're not thinking about that. You're just trying to gain more and do more. And that's what I get from being in advocacy arena with you. I learn from you every day. You have been the person that I have to talk me off the ledge and talk me down from. Thank you for your patience, my friend, my good sister.
I love you for that, and it
I love
is
you.
a joy to be doing this work with you. And as we wrap up, we definitely want to invite folks over to join us anytime, whether you come for just a short time or the entire time. Again, the Good Trouble Chat. I do some other things on that app on a
Yeah,
bi-weekly basis on Fridays evenings. There I host discussions,
discussions.
and that's a deep dive conversation. They're kind of uncomfortable because
Yeah,
we talk about topics that are important, like white supremacy and Christian nationalism,
yeah,
but we talk about them with depth, and we get granular so people understand what it is
right.
that we're dealing with, because I feel like until people really grasp what we're dealing with, they're not going to be very effective in combating it and keeping themselves safe and sane in the
Yeah.
midst of it. So that is something else that I do. And then,
Fired Up Friday.
yes, on Substack, Fired Up
Yeah,
Fridays, I do with Candidly Tiff, and that's, a really, really exciting format.
it is.
And
It's
there we
great.
just chop it up politically. Tiff is
Yeah,
very politically astute and engaged, so it's an opportunity to have very kind of nuanced political conversations. So Advocacy Arena Network is growing. We have a lot of
absolutely.
projects going on, and I am thrilled to be able to have Soul Sister as part of that ground force in all of these projects. So thank you so much, my friend, and I want to give you an opportunity for some closing thoughts and words as we wrap up.
I just want people to support unions because unions support you. If you see a strike, honor it. Buy them some water. Just be mindful of the fact that these people are out here working and trying to make a difference in their own lives and in the community, and they can't do it without you. And I want people to buy you a coffee. I want people to make sure that they are supporting Advocacy Arena in whatever format that they choose, whether it's on Spoutable, whether it's on Substack, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whether it's your store. I mean, we have some great products. I love them. And I really hope that we see more people advocating for democracy because they're advocating not just for themselves, they're advocating for the future. We don't leave this to chance, and I think that's how we ended up here where we see ourselves right now today, is that too many people took it for granted. So it's time to stand up. It's time to make a difference. It's time to continue this fight for advocacy. So thank you for leading this charge.
Thank you, my friend. I couldn't do it without folks like you supporting me. So thank you guys, and we hope that we will see your faces in some of the many places that Advocacy Arena is. Please join us and support us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Miss D.